Hello students. Now we'll discuss collecting banker. Collecting banker. Collecting banker refers to the function of receiving checks by a banker from his customer for the purpose of collecting the proceeds, amounts होंगे ना जो, and crediting them to respective customers account. The banker who is assigned the job of collecting the amount of the check from another banker is called the collecting banker. See, the banker who is assigned the job of collecting the amount of the check, जिसे क्या करना है, कलेक्ट करना है अमाउंट, ठीक है ना, चेक की अमाउंट को कलेक्ट करना है फ्रॉम अनदर बैंकर, दूसरे बैंकर से, वो होता है कलेक्टिंग बैंकर. क्लियर? The collecting banker is identified as a nexus between the payee of a check or its drawee. Between the payee of a check and its drawee. The collecting banker accepts the check, bills of exchange, and other negotiable instruments issued or endorsed in favor of his customer, and it forwards them to paying banker to collect the amount mentioned therein and credit the accounts of his customer with the proceeds resulting thereof. ओके, कलेक्टिंग बैंकर एक्सेप्ट करेगा चेक, कोई भी फॉर्म है, बिल ऑफ एक्सचेंज है, एंड अदर नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, ओके, इन फेवर ऑफ हिज कस्टमर. देन फॉरवर्ड करेगा पेइंग बैंकर को. The task of collecting checks and other negotiable instruments which are deposited by customer is a crucial service delivered by the modern day commercial banks. When customer receives a check, especially a crossed check on other banks, the customer send it to his banker for the purpose of collection from the bank. The bank which has been assigned the job of collecting the amount of the check from another bank is called the collecting banker. Collection of checks has now become a crucial function of a banker with the development of banking habits and with the extensive use of cross checks, which could be hardly dispensed with. See, now we'll see duties and responsibility of a collecting banker. First one is due care and diligence in the collection of checks. The collecting banker is bound to show due care and diligence in collection of checks presented to him. According to section 84 of the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, whereas a check is not presented for payment within a reasonable time of its issue. सेक्शन लर्न कर लेना है ये कि नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट एक्ट है 1881. Whereas a check is not presented for payment within a reasonable time of its issue, and the drawer or the person in whose account it is drawn had the right at the time when presentment ought to have been made, or as between himself and the banker, to have the check paid and suffers actual damage through the delay, collecting banker is discharged to the extent of such damage. अगर किसी भी तरह का डिले होता है, एक्चुअल डैमेज होता है चेक पेमेंट के दौरान, देन कलेक्टिंग बैंकर इज डिस्चार्ज्ड to such damage, that is, to the extent to which such drawer or person is a creditor of the banker to a large amount than would have been if such check had been paid. In case a collecting banker does not present the check for collection through proper channel within reasonable time, ठीक है ना, उस पर डेट मेंशन होती है, टाइम मेंशन होता है, एंड द कस्टमर मे सफ़र लॉस. In case the collecting banker and the paying banker are in the same bank, if it is same bank, or where the collecting branch is also the drawee branch. देखें, अगर सेम ब्रांच होगी, सेम बैंक ब्रांच होगी, collecting branch is also the drawee branch. In such a case, the collecting banker should present the check by the next day. In case the check is drawn on a bank in another place, it should be presented on the day after receipt. ठीक है ना, इतना डिफरेंस है कि अगर सेम पे है तो बाय द नेक्स्ट डे हो जाएगा, इफ़ इट इज़ इन अनदर प्लेस तो आफ्टर रिसीट हो जाएगा. क्लियर? देन सर्विंग नोटिस ऑफ डिसऑनर. When the check is dishonored, the collecting banker is bound to give notice of the same to his customer within a reasonable time. अगर डिसऑनर भी करना है ना चेक को, तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, एक प्रायर नोटिस टू द कस्टमर, वो भी टाइम के अंदर, मतलब रीज़नेबल टाइम होना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं है उसको कभी भी हम कह दें कि चेक डिसऑनर हो गया है, एंटरटेन नहीं किया जाएगा, तो रीज़नेबल टाइम होना चाहिए. इट मे बी नोटेड हियर व्हेन अ चेक इज रिटर्न फॉर कंफर्मेशन ऑफ एंडोर्समेंट, notice must be sent to his customer. If the collecting banker fails to give such a notice, the collecting banker will be liable to the customer for any loss. Okay, कौन होगा जिम्मेवार? collecting banker, that the customer may have suffered on account of such failure. Whereas the check is returned by the drawee banker for confirmation of endorsement, it is not called dishonor. See, check is returned by the drawee banker for confirmation, then it is not called dishonor. In such a case, notice must be given to the customer. In the absence of such a notice, if the check is returned for the second time and the customer suffers a loss, the collecting banker will be liable for the loss. Okay, then agent for collection. In case a check is drawn on a place where the banker is not a member of clearing house, जबकि बैंकर उसका मेंबर नहीं है, द कलेक्टिंग बैंकर में एम्प्लॉय अनदर बैंकर. ठीक है ना, वो क्या करेगा, किसी और को हायर कर लेगा, अनदर बैंकर को, हु इज़ अ मेंबर ऑफ क्लियरिंग हाउस. मतलब होना क्या चाहिए, क्लियरिंग हाउस का मेंबर होना चाहिए फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ कलेक्टिंग द चेक. इन सच अ केस द बैंकर बिकम्स अ सब्स्टिट्यूटेड एजेंट. तो एजेंट हम कहेंगे एजेंट फॉर कलेक्शन हम एम्प्लॉय कर सकते हैं। देखते हैं। ओके, ये सेक्शन याद कर लेना है। अकॉर्डिंग टू सेक्शन 194 ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, whereas an agent holding an express or implied authority, क्या होगा? एक्सप्रेस और इम्प्लाइड, मतलब क्लियर होता है वो, इसे हम गर्भित भी कहते हैं। टू नेम अनदर पर्सन to act in the business of the agency has accordingly named another person. Such a person is a substituted agent. Such an agent shall be taken as the agent of a principal for such part of the work as is entrusted to him. Then presenting the check without delay. बिना किसी देरी के प्रेजेंट करना चेक। इट इज़ द ड्यूटी ऑफ द बैंकर टू प्रेजेंट द चेक्स फॉर पेमेंट विदाउट डिले। इट शुड बी प्रेजेंटेड टू द ड्रॉई बैंक विद इन अ रीजनेबल पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। इफ द कलेक्टिंग एंड द पेइंग बैंकर्स हैपन टू बी इन द सेम प्लेस, कलेक्टिंग एंड पेइंग बैंकर्स, द कलेक्टिंग बैंकर शुड प्रेजेंट द चेक द नेक्स्ट डे आफ्टर रिसीविंग द सेम। रिसीव करने के नेक्स्ट डे, ठीक है ना, रिसीविंग के बाद नेक्स्ट डे हमने क्या करना है? प्रेजेंट कर देना है। इफ इट इज़ एन आउटस्टेशन चेक, द बैंकर शुड मेल देम टू द ड्रॉई बैंकर on the day after it is received by him. The check is presented to the clearing houses. किसके थ्रू किया जाता है? क्लियरिंग हाउसेस के थ्रू। पॉसिबल डिले इन प्रेजेंटिंग अ चेक entrusted for collection occurs in more than one way. तो विदाउट डिले प्रेजेंट करना चाहिए। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, if some checks meant for collection are misplaced and traced after a few days, ठीक है ना, अगर कभी मिसप्लेस हो जाता है, मतलब कुछ भी रीज़न है कि डिले हो गया है, एंड सेंट फॉर कलेक्शन, एंड इन द मीन वाइल द कस्टमर रिलाइंग टोटली ऑन द क्लियरेंस ऑफ हिज चेक हैज़ issued checks on this account, and if they are dishonored by the bank is held liable for this wrongful dishonor. यहाँ पे देखें कौन होगा जिम्मेवार? हु इज लाइबल? बैंक हो जाता है। Reasonable time is observed by having regard to the following. First one is the nature of credit instrument. Second, usage of trade and bankers. Third, facts of a particular case. Then remittance of proceeds to the customer. In case a collecting banker has realized the check, collecting banker should pay the proceeds to the customer as per his customer's direction. Generally, the amount is credited to the account of customer on the customer's request in writing. Credit to customer's account. The proceeds may be remitted to him by a demand draft. क्या यूज़ कर रहे हैं हम यहाँ? डिमांड ड्राफ्ट। If the customer gives instructions to the banker, the draft may be forwarded. By doing so, the relationship between principal and agent comes to an end, and the new relationship between debtor and creditor will begin. अगर कस्टमर इंस्ट्रक्शंस देता है बैंकर को तो ड्राफ्ट फॉरवर्ड किया जाएगा। क्लियर? नेक्स्ट इज कलेक्शन ऑफ bills of exchange. Bills of exchange. There is no legal obligation for banker to collect the bills of exchange for its customer, but generally bank gives such facility to its customer. A banker should examine the title of the depositor as the statutory protection under section 131. ये याद कर लेना है, सेक्शन 131 of the Negotiable Instruments Act 1881. The collecting banker must examine very carefully the title of his customer towards the bill. तो ध्यान दें, यहाँ हमने क्या एग्जामिन करना है? Title of the depositor. The banker should extend this facility to him with a trusted reference. So it can be said that the banker is acting as a mere agent for collection and not in capacity of a banker. If the customer allows his banker to use the collecting money for its own purpose at present and to repay an equivalent amount on a fixed date in future, the contract between the banker and the customer will come to an end. ओके, कहाँ तक है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट? जब तक कि कलेक्शन हो, जब तक कलेक्शन नहीं होता, ठीक है ना? तो फिर कस्टमर पर डिपेंड करेगा, अगर फॉरवर्ड कर देता है, मतलब कौन सी पार्टी के थ्रू वो करना चाहता है. लाइक एजेंट ऐसा नहीं है कि इस बार हम एजेंट कोई और हायर कर रहे हैं तो नेक्स्ट टाइम भी सेम होगा, ठीक है ना? एज पर कन्वीनियंस. ओके, नेक्स्ट हम करते हैं capacities as a collecting banker. Capacities as a collecting banker. If banker collects his customers' checks, then the banker acts in any one of the following capacity. First is holder for value. Holder for value. In second, agent for the customer. On receiving checks drawn on the other banks, the customer deposits them in his own bank and requests the banker to collect them and credit the proceeds to his account. Collect करेगा, फिर क्रेडिट कर देगा उस अमाउंट को उसके अकाउंट में. The banker executes this service for the customer. After receiving a check for collection from the customer, the banker acts as the agent of the customer. किस फॉर्म में कर रहा है? As a agent of the customer. But the banker become a holder when pays the amount of check or credits the amount of the check to his customer in anticipation of collection. ओके, होल्डर कब बन जाता है? जबकि अमाउंट, चेक की अमाउंट पे करता है या क्रेडिट करता है टू हिज कस्टमर इन एंटिसिपेशन ऑफ कलेक्शन. द बैंकर बिकम्स अ होल्डर इन ड्यू कोर्स. देखें, होल्डर इन ड्यू कोर्स मतलब इन ड्यू कोर्स हमने ऐड ऑन कर दिया है. इफ द कंडीशंस अटैचिंग टू टर्म आर सेटिस्फाइड. तो फर्स्ट हम क्लियर करते हैं कलेक्टिंग बैंकर एज होल्डर फॉर वैल्यू. एज होल्डर फॉर वैल्यू इन केस ऑफ आउट स्टेशन चेक्स, जबकि दोनों ब्रांचेस अलग अलग होंगी ना, Hmm. The collecting banker does not getting the amount of checks immediately. यहाँ हम बात कर रहे हैं आउटस्टेशन चेक्स की. Does not get the amount of checks immediately and it would take some times. In order to oblige a customer, the banker might pay the amount of check or may credit his customer's account and allow him to withdraw the amount even before realizes the check. Okay. If it is done, the collecting banker is regarded as a holder. If it is done, the collecting banker is regarded as a holder for value, as was held in case of AL Underwood Limited वर्सेस बार्कलेज बैंक. देखो ये केस हुआ था 1924 में. ये याद कर लेना है. बट द कलेक्टिंग बैंकर शुड गेट एन अंडरटेकिंग फ्रॉम द कस्टमर. Collecting banker should get an undertaking from the customer to the effect that the customer shall reimburse the banker in case of dishonor of the check. The banker becomes its holder for value by giving its value to the customer in any of the following ways. Firstly, by lending on the potency of the check. Then by paying the amount of check or part of it before it is cleared. ठीक है ना. अगर टाइम से पहले अगर हम कह रहे हैं पे कर रहा है अमाउंट ऑफ चेक और पार्ट कुछ कर रहा है पे, तो देन बाय अग्रीइंग टू अलाउ द कस्टमर टू विथड्रॉ बिफोर द चेक इज क्लियर्ड, thereby reducing the existing overdraft. Then by giving cash over the counter for the check at the time it is presented for collecting. The banker becomes the holder for value and also the holder in due course. देखें दोनों टर्म यूज कर रहे हैं हम यहाँ. इन ड्यू कोर्स भी. नेक्स्ट हम करते हैं कलेक्टिंग बैंकर एज एन एजेंट. When the collecting banker credits the amount of the check after the check amount is actually realized. After the check amount is actually realized, the bank is deemed to be acting as an agent to his customer. In such a case, the customer is allowed to withdraw the amount of check only after the payment is realized from the drawing bank. As an agent of his customer, the collecting banker does not get a better title than that of his customer. Suppose the customer has a defective title. The collecting banker does not have good title to the check. Customer has a defective title. The collecting banker does not have good title to the check. If the check collected by him did not belong to his customer, the banker is held liable for conversion of money illegally interfering with the rights of the true owner of the check. This conversion means wrongful or unlawful or illegal interference with another person's property or right. But the right of the true owner is a restricted one. It is not be exercised in case the goods reach the hands of one whom receives it in good faith. Second, for value, then without the knowledge that the other party has no authority thereon accepting these circumstances, the true owner of the negotiable instrument could file a suit for conversion. Okay, thank you.